Hello, everybody. All right, so welcome to the Mikestand, everybody. Hope everybody's having we've reached Wednesday, which is Hump Day, middle of the week, where you get over the hump of the week, as it were. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week thus far. Of course, we'll welcome my co-host for the evening, Rick Piper of Cross Comics. And with that, Rick, would you like to do a little intro, maybe share some links, promote your channel, etc., etc. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. I am, of course, Rick Piper of Cross Comics. I actually have a couple YouTube channels. One that most my Cross Comics one, where I do the stuff that I do, have a chill stream and put stuff up, usually related to my comics or comics in general. But I do have another channel called Pied Piper of Hamilton, where I do some video gaming, not lately, but do some movie reviews or reactions and all that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, if anybody's in that to it in the chat, and then we can get on with the show.
All right. So with that, all right. So, anyways, tonight, of course, I got one article, and I guess here's the link to his channel. Is this the Pied Piper? Yeah, the Pied Piper of Hamilton channel right here. So you guys want to check that out?
Okay, but
What was that, Rick?
okay, for some reason that failed. For some reason that failed to post. It says
Oh no,
it failed
because
to
I have
post in
I have
my
a picture
quarters.
here, and I'm looking over at I'm looking over at I'm just went over to the YouTube page. It's there, and I have it on here. So
YouTube.
yeah, it's you put it up. It did post.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just that you're
in
not.
it's in the StreamYard, but is it on YouTube?
Mhm. Yes, it is on YouTube.
I'm just gonna, just in case.
I will show you.
Okay. Uh,
See
okay.
it.
Something.
See it's up there, Rick.
Okay.
In fact, it looks like we have a couple other.
Well, I put it there again. I might have accident. I might have put it twice. Oh, if I did.
Hey, hail Xenu, keep your TRs in my brother Thetans. All right. All right. So, anyways, everything all right, Rick? You ready to go or?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to share the link in
Okay, so just a friendly reminder to everybody once again, if you haven't already, you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people on here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the question to the best of our ability. With that being said, tonight we're going to go over an article from Bounding into Comics. Or not Bounding, I'm sorry, not Bounding, Bleeding Fool, sorry. In fact, I'll pull that up. And this one's kind of an interesting article. Um, one grabbed my attention, so I figured it'd be a good one to talk about here. Um, Chinese dissident pens comic
What
sure,
makes it interesting?
huh? Well, Chinese dissident pens comic sure to
Uh,
banish her from her
yeah,
home.
yeah, I get you. Sort of answer it with the
What was that, Rick?
sorry, just my delay.
All right.
Doesn't matter
So,
now.
all right. So, anyways, let's get into this a bit here. Chinese dissident pins comic sure to banish her from her homeland. Article by Avi Green published earlier today. Feeding Ghost, a graphic memoir.
Well,
Uh,
it should have,
what was that, Rick?
it should have banished her from her homeland. I'm sure she's glad. It's sure to banish her from her homeland. I'm sure she's glad because
Hmm.
if she's a dissident, means that she's outside. She's somewhere else living. I think that doesn't really want to go back
Hmm. Well, let's see
unless
how
it became a free country.
let's see how what all this is saying here. So, article by Tessa Wolves. Um, all right. So this is Avi speaking now here. The Seattle Times interviewed Tessa Hulse, an artist of Chinese descent, who's produced a graphic novel titled Feeding Ghosts, which tells her family's history and of the country itself in the past century. Now, this is from the article that they're referring to here. Seattle artist Tessa Hulse knew she wanted to tell the story of her family history across 3 generations. She just wasn't sure what form the story should take. It's a complex tale spanning continents, wars, and political upheaval. Hull's grandmother, Sun Yi, was a pioneering journalist who fled China for Hong Kong after years of persecution from the communist government and published a best selling memoir. Sun Yi, Sun Yi had an affair with a Swiss diplomat who vanished from her life as soon as she became pregnant with
Oh,
a daughter whom she named Rose. After Sun Yi had a mental breakdown and was institutionalized, Rose basically raised herself, and that tempestuous childhood would inform the way Rose eventually struggled to protect her daughter, Tessa, from the world. So from grandmother to mother to daughter.
yeah.
It's a multi-generational story packed with drama, intrigue, and heartbreak. But if Hulse told it in the form of a traditional prose memoir, she explains over boba tea in the Chinatown International District, her family story would have been, quote, so history heavy that it would have been relegated to a pretty academic sphere, unquote. So I think, in other words, yeah, okay. So publishing,
Yeah,
quote
with
unquote.
being history heavy, with this,
Oh, if she published it just simply as a book, I think it would not. She doesn't feel it might have hit as home because it would have been like it would have been more of an academic text than anything else. So I think what she's saying it would have been more like
well,
like reading an academic
yeah,
text
because it would.
or academic paper. Go
Well,
ahead, Rick.
I think it's more the government would have treated it like that. Um, I think it's more the government would have treated it as an academic text rather than what it was meant to be, which would have been a family history or some nonfiction. I think it's called. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So publishing quote unquote feeding ghosts in comics form, Hulse decided was, quote, the only way that I could cram in, unquote, all the political, historical, and emotional layers of a family story, um, end quote, I guess. And, well, I guess they shouldn't, I think they added a quotation mark there that shouldn't have been added, but, and still keep it pretty accessible, um, unquote. Through the combination of words and pictures in comics, she explains, quote, you can shift between the microcosm and the macrocosm so easily and give broad context um, without needing a lot of exposition, unquote. So basically what they're talking about with microcosm and microcosm is just the more smaller details, whereas the macrocosm is like macrocosm is the big picture. So I think that's where.
Yeah, and you can probably do that because of all the pictures that you put in or whatever, all the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
scar on a face or whatever, or showing how the scar got there,
Mm-hmm. But
stuff
Hulse
like
was
that,
a oh,
instead of having to explain it.
right. But Hulse was a painter and writer whose experience with comics stopped and started with the one she read as a child, like quote unquote Calvin and Hobbes and David Macaulay's quote The Way Things Work unquote. She needed a crash course. Luckily, Hulse says, quote, the Seattle in brackets public library has such an awesome graphic novel collection, unquote. And she checked out hundreds of graphic novels and memoirs, trying to learn about the form, gravitating especially toward Alison Bechdel's, quote, fun home, unquote. Kristen Radke's, quote unquote, seek you, and David B's, quote unquote, epileptic for inspiration.
Yes, that's good. I hope it's good. I'm not sure what those books are. Well, I guess they're all some sort of
I guess they're
uh,
biop is what I'm thinking.
yeah, biography comics, or
Yeah.
novels.
Yeah. So, anyways, continuing on here. When Hulse began the project, she estimated that the graphic memoir would probably, quote, take 3 to 5 years to finish, unquote. A born adventurer who has worked for extended stints in Antarctica and Alaska, Hull spent 6 months outlining, quote unquote, feeding ghosts, while, quote, going feral, unquote, and in an, quote, experiment with extreme solitude, unquote, thanks to the Marjorie Davis Boyden Wilderness Writing Residency, which placed her in an, quote, an off grid cabin in the middle of the wilderness in southern Oregon with no cell service, no internet, and no contentious electricity, unquote.
Continuous.
Oh, continuous electricity.
And that's why they said it. Hello, Al. It
Yeah.
was great having you on last
I
night.
didn't highlight it earlier, but
Anyways, I just wanted to say that while you were in between paragraphs.
mhm. All right. So, anyways, with that, let's continue on here. Once she emerged from the wild with a 10,000 word outline, it became clear that the process would take a lot longer than planned. Ultimately, she said writing, illustrating, and publishing the 400-page book took, quote, almost a decade. I started a few months after my 30th birthday, and I am now 39, unquote. So yeah, she went almost a full 10 years writing that thing. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, not 10 years just writing. It was she took, I'm not sure how long to do the writing, but then converting that writing into pictures and all that.
Mhm.
Figuring out how the layout and all that for the graphic novel, switching it into a comic book format basically, and getting it into it. Took 9 plus 9 years.
Yeah.
So it's a feat for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now this is Avi talking again here. Well, I'm sure it's well worth the effort. China's communism is a serious issue, much like the Islamic religion is in countries like Iran, which, if memory serves, Marjane Satrapi did a graphic novel about and a subject in serious need of discussion and debate. But if there's something sad coming as a result of Ms. Hull's new graphic novel, it's this. And is back to the article that they're referring to here. He's referring to here, the Seattle Times article. Because of our frank discussion of Chinese history, quote, I think there's a pretty good chance that mainland China will never give me a visa again, unquote. She says, which means she's unlikely to ever again see the distant family members she visited for the first time with her mother 8 years ago. Ultimately, Hull feels, quote, a huge sense of relief, unquote, that quote unquote feeding ghost is out in the world. And this is Avi speaking again, and it looks like that's the finish of the article with this last paragraph here. Yes, I do believe it's good if this has gone to press. But she's correct that China's communism remains a serious issue and hugely regrettable. They consider even the remotest criticism objectionable and forbidden. Alas, this is the norm in such totalitarian regimes, which will take a long time to ever mend. Oh, there we go with that one.
Well,
So that one went
well,
pretty.
I wouldn't say it would take a long time to mend, but it's certainly not likely to happen for a long time.
Hmm.
It's just getting the right sort of leader in there. You know,
Mhm.
leader could change things like that, but you know, I doubt anytime soon they're going to be getting a decent leader in there.
Yeah. So what I'll do now is I'll go. We went through that one pretty quickly, so we definitely have time to at least go through another article. But there aren't any more here that I want to touch upon here, anyways, on Bleeding Fools. So let's go back over to Bounding into Comics. Um, let's see now. Let's see if there's anything newer that came up since I checked this afternoon. Okay. I was kind of reluctant to go over this article because it's a rumor. It's not, but considering there's not really much else going on here, might as well take it out because they even say here rumor. So, but it doesn't necessarily surprise. It wouldn't surprise anybody if they're doing this. So, rumor: Marvel Studios wants to follow X-Men '97 with Spider-Man the animated series revival. So, in short, there, I think they want. Sounds like what they want to. They want to consider doing what they basically did with X-Men from the '90s to Spider-Man the animated series. Do kind of a continuation of that cartoon. That
Yeah,
cartoon,
I heard.
if you remember, that cartoon ended with Peter and Madam Web kind of going off to get Mary Jane. You know, in that final episode,
Yeah,
Heidi actually met Stan Lee, and then Madam Web I think Spidey, who is of course voiced by Spidey in that series, who was voiced by Christopher Daniel Barnes, says, "Yeah, that Stan Lee guy is a real good guy," something to that effect. And Madam Web, who happened to be voiced by Joan Lee, Stan Lee's wife, um, said, "Yeah,
yeah. I
so
guess they'll have to get a new.
yeah."
I
So,
guess they would have to get a new voice for her
well, but yeah, I think she passed away before Stan did, obviously.
before Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I've heard these rumors too. Um,
Mhm.
that it's something that they have planned. They have planned. Hopefully, they don't do anything. Bring up any controversy of what they might do to some characters, like they have what X-Men '97, which you know,
Well, actually, and depending on which characters they use, I know there's a few of them that will have to be replaced. The voice actors will have to be replaced. You know,
well, I'm not so much talking voice actors. Like
mm,
voice actors change. It's a shame that some people don't reprise it if they're still alive, but they change. That it's,
well, yeah,
it's
well, what I was alluding to is I know of at least three of them. I think even four, maybe, who have passed on since the ending of that show. The aforementioned Joan Lee, of course. Earl Bowen, I believe, has passed
yeah,
on. He's the guy. Hey Tim, not much. He's
hey,
he's the
Tim.
guy who voiced the Beyonder and Red Skull in the series, and would
Yeah,
also Ed
no,
Asner, who
those
just
characters,
passed away last year. He was
those
J. Jonah Jameson.
those characters, yes, although they're great. Unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at, they were not a major part of the series. Yes, Madam Web
Well, J.
appeared
Jonah
quite a few
Jameson
times.
was.
But oh yeah,
Lori
J.
Grant,
Jonah
who was
Jameson,
voiced. Yeah, I
yes,
mean, but what I'm getting at. Let's see. They'll have to replace Scorpion's voice actor because that was Richard Mall, who just passed away, I think, a couple years ago. So, but again, um,
Richard. I didn't think Richard Mall had died because I remember looking at him when I don't know, about a year ago when
well, yeah, I think he just passed away like
well,
2 or 3 years ago because
you're talking the
I
guy
actually
from
looked him up a while back because I looked it up a while back because I was looking into um Night
you're
Court.
talking, yeah, okay, yeah, because I thought he was still alive
No,
because
he in fact it says he died this past October.
when they brought
October
back the new series,
he passed away back in
okay, it's
October
less than a year
25th,
ago,
2023. Yeah, so actually
technically.
it's more like 6 or 7 months ago, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so we're talking what?
Yeah. So he just passed
Yeah,
on.
less than 6 months because yeah, so that's why it's a little bit shocking to me. I might have heard, but because I remember when the new Night Court came up, that I would have liked to seen him make a guest appearance. or he might have. So I forget whether he did.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
funny because
know.
I looked into that because my sister's been watching the newer night courts, and I kind of was looking into that a little bit. John Larroquette, I think, might be one of the John Larroquette and Marsha Warfield are, I think, the only two members of that show who I think are still alive at this point. Most, if not all, the other main actors, including Marky Post, I think, have since passed on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm
anyway,
not sure which ones are still alive. I know the actor of Harry died. Oh,
yeah, Harry Anderson, he passed
oh,
away years
oh,
ago.
Brent.
I know. Oh, go
Although
ahead.
I haven't seen the episode, but Brent Spiner did make a guest appearance in it because he was I believe, a recurring character in the original, and he came
Who are
back
you
as
talking
that
about?
character. Brent Spiner.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I know he's still alive. I hear he's on. He does a lot of the Star Trek conventions, talking about his experience.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah,
Brent Spiner is also part of the newer Star Trek shows as well. So,
yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. That he did make a guest appearance on this newer one.
yeah,
Maybe I should do a Melvin in a series for sure.
that might be
It's
interesting.
just
Well,
it's
I
just
mean,
you need a little bit of money.
comics and cartoons have gone hand in hand, going all the way back to the Golden Age. You know, um, Popeye started out in the comic strips and was made in a comic book, and of course, you got the shorts that were done by Fleischer Studios for Paramount. You know, I know they did eventually do comic adaptations of Walt Disney, Walter Lantz, Warner Brothers. So they go hand in hand. They do definitely go hand in hand. So, anyways, let's get into this article.
Yeah,
Okay, so and just another reminder: rumor Marvel Studios wants to follow X-Men '97 with Spider-Man the animated series revival. Article by Spencer McCooley, published May 27, 2024. There's of course a scene from when the X-Men made their guest appearance on the original show.
yeah,
Wolverine,
the crossover.
Cal Dodd, one of the ones who is still reprising his role in the current X-Men '97 series, recommends the wall crawler, Christopher Daniel Barnes, stay out of his way in Spider-Man the Animated Series Season 2, Mutants Revenge. So, considering Spider-Man the Animated Series sequel, according to a new whisper, Marvel Studios is looking to give the X-Men '97 to their entire '90s animated universe, starting with a similarly styled relaunch of the fan favorite Spider-Man animated series. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, that's like I was saying. Hopefully, they don't do any of the kit. Okay, the voice actors are one thing. People not recurring, but hopefully they don't do any adjustments to the characters.
Well, again, some of the voice actors had to be changed because, as we were just talking about,
Yeah,
some of them passed away. In fact, the voice actress who replaced Linda Gary, who died during the show's run, Linda Gary, who was the original voice of Aunt May in that series, and then was replaced by Julie Bennett. Julie Bennett passed away back in 2020.
yeah. Like
So they're gonna, and
I
Aunt
don't
May. You
really.
can tell me Aunt May isn't a key character and all that, but
Yeah,
but
I don't really like them changing voice actors, just like I don't really like them changing actors in a series or whatever.
yeah,
But it's more important to me that they keep true to the series and the characters and
right,
don't f with them. I'm sure some way that they're gonna try and figure out a way to bring Miles in,
yeah.
but
Yeah, well,
I guess
even in the X-Men '97 series, some of the now, granted, I don't know why they replaced Catherine, like they replaced Catherine Disher as the voice of Jean Grey with Jennifer Hale, believe it or not, and then Phil Aiken, who was the original voice of Bishop, and they replaced him as well. Now in that one, that kind of is a bit of a interesting thing because some of the reasons why they were changing the voice actors and actresses in X-Men 97 was claiming because they wanted to have the voices be more truer representations of the characters involved. Like Alison Court gave up the role of Jubilee to give it to a
an Asian person.
Yeah. But Phil Aiken is black. Okay. In fact, Phil Aiken, if you've ever watched the 90s Highlander series, he was a big part of
I watched a little bit.
Yeah,
of
he was
it.
a big part of season 3 and 4, I believe. He was Charlie DeSalvo, who would co-own the dojo with Duncan, with Adrian Paul's character. So that's who that is. So, that was good. I'm still a little bit mystified at why Ron Rubin was replaced with that J.P. Kaliak as Morph. But I guess that, and I don't know if that was a case where Rubin just voluntarily gave up the role, or they just gave it to somebody else for that purpose. So,
or he maybe didn't want to reprise it too, for even just whatever reason, because he's retired or whatever. I'm not sure whether he is. Oh, Tim, were you able to download that thing that you did for me in the back end of the duck? Anyways, we should probably get on with this because we don't want to run out of time.
yeah, well, we're coming up on 32 minutes, so we should probably speed along a little bit here. From again the first series, Spider-Man Christopher Daniel Barnes thanks the X-Men for their help in stopping Hobgoblin. Mark Hamill in Spider-Man the Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 5, Mutants' Revenge, 1990. Now, here's the funny thing about Mark Hamill, too. So he did the Hobgoblin here. He did the Joker in
Batman the Animated Series.
Batman the Animated Series in the DCAU. Okay. He was the main antagonist of another show called, I think it's Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce or something like that. He was the main. Okay. So I could tell you he's known for doing two things. He's known as, of course, being Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, and as basically cackling psychotic villains in cartoons, voicing cackling psychotic villains in cartoons.
Although I must admit, the Hobgoblin did not sound like the Joker. Although when he recently did Skeletor, I think it was, in the new He-Man thing, he sounded way too much like the Joker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Hobgoblin. Granted, he still was able to make it different, but it was still kind of like that, like dark, psychotic, villain type.
Yeah, well, Hobgoblin isn't quite.
He may not have been somebody they would have locked up per se in Arkham, but he was just there's a little bit more method to his madness than anything else. He wasn't considered.
Well, the Hobgoblin isn't quite as crazy as the Green Goblin. In fact, I don't think the Hobgoblin's crazy at all. But anyways, on to
as I recall from reading some of the primers from the comics and stuff, the guy who would become the first Hobgoblin, because I think there were two of them at least. The guy who became the first Hobgoblin came upon one of Green Goblin's hideouts with all the in it and stuff like that, and just started. And instead of being the Green Goblin, he became the Hobgoblin. So, whereas in this series, the Hobgoblin was the one who was actually introduced first. So, anyways, this supposed insight into Marvel's awkwardly animated future, in parentheses, those who have watched X-Men 97 will know what I mean. unparenthesed, was first provided to the public on March 24th, courtesy of Scooper and the Cosmic Circus reporter, Alex Perez. Fielding questions regarding his insider Marvel knowledge from members of the Cosmic Circus public Discord server, Perez was at one point pressed by user Titan29 as to whether or not, quote, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, in brackets R, going to share a continuity with X-Men, Spider-Man, again in X-Men 97. So basically, they're talking about all those 90s versions of those shows that came.
Yeah, although I don't think the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, and Fantastic Four were not part of them, but Spider Man, of course, and X Men had a shared universe in the 90s.
Well, you could kind of argue that they kind of did,
Well, yes, there was in
because when they did the Secret Wars, they did the Secret Wars arc in the 90s Spider-Man, right? They got Robert Hayes to reprise his role as Tony Stark Iron Man in that show.
Yeah, I know those characters were in that series. They made a brief appearance, or a brief appearance, or more than a cameo. Maybe they were in a whole episode, but they didn't have the shows of them that were out during the 90s were not the same part of the universe of the X-Men and Spider-Man. Is what I more mean.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the Scuba asserted, quote, there have been discussions about exploring a Marvel 90s animated universe, which would most likely be explored through X-Men 97 at this time.
In other words, they might put the characters in. They might make an appearance.
Well, it was always implied though that I think that all those series did kind of share a continuity, even though you didn't have, because as I said, Robert Hayes and James Avery did reprise their roles for their appearances on the Spider-Man series. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, most of the Fantastic Four also. Well, actually, no. I think only Brian Austin Green. I think was the only one reprised his role from that. But here you go. Here's another one.
A few voice actors have done the voice for characters over different incarnations of them in various cartoons that weren't connected. So just because one guy does the voice, for two different cartoons, doesn't necessarily mean they're connected.
Yeah, I mean there's no clear evidence one way.
Either way,
there's no clear because obviously when Iron Man first came onto the Spider-Man series, it was in a battle against Dormammu. It was Dormammu's second appearance, after his initial appearance with Doctor Strange earlier in the series. So I mean, but anyways, Rogue, who's voiced by Lenore Zahn, and Lenore Zahn did reprise her role again of Rogue, tries to flirt information out of Spider-Man, Christopher Daniel Barnes, in Spider-Man the Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 4, The Mutant Agenda. However, despite X-Men 97 being the only confirmed animated project on Marvel's slate, Perez further noted that, quote, there is potential for more projects to be developed within this universe, the most likely candidate being a sequel series to Spider-Man, the animated series, but this is still very early in development as an idea being tossed around. Quote, There are discussions about other revival series beyond Daredevil, Born Again, and X-Men 97 in development. He would later tell another user, quote, some set in the same universe as these projects. Norman Spencer, who's Cyclops, who I've heard some people, well, no, actually, I think he was replaced series too. But as touched upon by Titan 29 above, aside from Spider-Man the Animated Series, there are a number of candidates Marvel could choose from for the next 90s revival. Not only are there the aforementioned trio of the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, there's also a Silver Surfer of the animated series, and if a Spider fan could dream for just a moment, webcrawler sci-fi heavy sequel series Spider-Man Unlimited. Now that's the one where he's sent off to another world and they were playing up the ultimate.
Yeah.
There's the scene from that.
Well, I wouldn't say the Ultimate because Ultimate Spider-Man wasn't around yet, I don't think, or maybe just coming onto the scene.
But notably, one factor that makes a Spider-Man revival more likely than any of the others, aside from the series' massive popularity, is that its lead actor, Christopher Daniel Barnes, is still actively working as a voice actor to this day, having most recently provided the voice for The Little Mermaid Prince Eric, who he has voiced since his debut in the 1984 animated film, in Disney's Dreamlight Valley and Disney Speedstorm Vegan. Now, here's one other little fact that I found out about Christopher Daniel Barnes, too. I believe he was in the live action Aliens movie, or I don't know if it was Aliens or I think he and Robert Hayes were both in. It was a sci-fi. I don't know if it was Aliens or E.T. or something like that. It was one of those type of movies they were in. Can't remember what it is now, but plus, not only is he still working, but he is also still actively providing animated Spider-related voices, bringing to life such characters as Electro, Spider Knight, and Wolf Spider in Disney's Ultimate Spider-Man. And of course, the big question that looms over any possible revisiting of the Spider-Man the animated series continuity: will the Scarlet Spider finally get more screen time to shine? And they did utilize Scarlet Spider during the Spidey Wars saga there.
Yeah.
And of course, all versions of Spider-Man were all voiced by Christopher Daniel Barnes in that.
Yeah.
On a slightly related note, Perez also confirmed that while the main MCU timeline is not connected to X-Men 97, it does, quote unquote, exist written within the MCU as part of the larger multiverse. Well, duh. The final episode told us that, right? Well, okay, no, I'm sorry. They're talking about X-Men 97. I'm actually thinking Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man series we do know, because as I mentioned earlier, it was the last episode where you know
we know about the multiverse in this in the 90s, you know, with X-Men and Spider-Man. We know that the multiverse is in there, but just because it's in there doesn't mean that multiverse is connected with the movie's multiverse, because they're years apart. But they're confirming that they are in this case.
To this end,
which is all right, like nobody. I was just going to say nobody would care. Yeah, I was just going to say nobody would care either way if they were or weren't, or most nobody would care.
Yeah. To this end, he explained that, quote, as for the introduction of X-Men and mutant kind, it's already been introduced in the main MCU continuity with characters like Ms. Marvel, and Namor, and they will continue to build it up as such, unquote. And of course,
well, I don't think they've actually really said that Miss Marvel in the cinematic universe is a mutant yet. Namor, I don't even think they said he was a mutant really in it.
Beast, voiced by George Wooten, another guy who reprised the role for X-Men 97, reveals that Genevieve, who was voiced by Laura O'Brien, is a mutant in Spider-Man, the animated series, Season 2, Episode 5, Mutants' Revenge. At current, the next episode of Marvel's new X-Men 97 animated series, Fire Made Flesh, is currently set to hit Disney Plus on March 27th, which is today. Now, here's the thing. When I saw it, because I was doing an X-Men 97 story yesterday, the current voice actor for Morph had talked about, whether or not they were actually planning on using the term non-binary for the series and why they didn't, and why he still referred to himself as he, him, as opposed to they, them in the series. One of the points they made was, well, the reason he did was partly because since this is a continuation of the X-Men 97 series, he was.
They don't have that terminology back then.
They didn't have such terms. They didn't have such concepts at that point. So that's right. But anyways, now this article we just went over, of course, is more or less a rumor. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, and I've heard the rumor already too myself somewhere else. I forget where, but. And Alex says, "Hi Tim, I would bet real money comic book creators will be AI animating their own shows within two, maybe 3 years, with early adapters doing it now. Melvin 3, the animated series, is coming in 3 years." Yeah. Well, I would really like to do it. I've thought about starting to get people to rig up, do a 3D model of a Canadian Shield and rig it. It's expensive at the moment to get the people to do that. So that's my main drawback. Not really the money to do it.
So we are up to like the 47-minute mark. So I guess now we'll move on to the wrestling wrap up and then wrap things up with the This Day in Each History segment. All right. So in terms of WWE, of course, things have kind of quieted down a bit as of course, with this being the middle of the week, they're not having a show right now. But there's still a lot of back and forth going on between Rock and Cody and all that. And people are saying that Rock may be taking some of the spotlight away from Roman Reigns, even though it's the focus should be on Reigns, and that's pretty much more or less the scuttlebutt going on in the WWE side of things. Now for AEW, tonight's Dynamite, AEW Dynamite, is coming to everybody from the Centre Videotron in Quebec City, Quebec, Canada. Basically, AEW's debut in Quebec. On tonight's show includes Katsuyori Shibata taking on Will Ospreay, as Will Ospreay decided to challenge Shibata after Shibata's match with Bryan Danielson a couple weeks ago on Collision. Two of the quarterfinal matches in the tournament to crown new World Tag Team titles will be happening, as the Young Bucks will be taking on Private Party in one match, and the Undisputed Kingdom, the current Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, will be taking on the Best Friends duo of Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta in the other quarterfinal match. in a number one contender four-way match to see who will become the next challenger to Julia Hart's TBS title. You have Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander versus Anna Jay versus Sky Blue. And then the main event slot is being given to Swerve Strickland taking on Konosuke Takeshita as Strickland looks to regain some momentum to continue going after Joe for the AEW World title. Actually, one other piece of WE news that I can probably go over is that as part of an angle, they have slated Ridge Holland supposedly retiring. They're saying that he, because he's been involved in a couple of injuring a couple wrestlers by accident. One of which was Biggie a couple years ago, basically drive him on his head with a exploder suplex. So with that's all I got for the wrestling side of it. Of course, we'll have more news tomorrow on that. But with that, now, with all that being said, today is Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. So let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Let's see now. So first off, we're going to head back 25 years ago today. As on this date, 25 years ago today, CZW, also known as Combat Zone Wrestling, which is a very hardcore type wrestling, kind of like ECW, just more violent. CZW, the Staple Gun event, took place at Mantua, New Jersey. The show opened with a 20-man, the CZW heavyweight title 20-man battle royal, in which Nick Gage had won it over 19 other men. And the main event saw him retain the title in a staple gun ladder match over Lobo. Now, my guess is a staple, because I know everybody's going to ask me what a staple gun ladder match is. Well, first off, a ladder match, for those of you who don't know, is usually when you place some kind of prize, usually a belt, but it could be money, it could be anything. You place something up over the ring, and you have to use the ladder to get to it, right? I'm guessing that in this case, a staple gun ladder match, they've got the staple gun hanging over the ring. Use the ladder to go grab it, and whoever grabs it can use it. It's the staple gun part of this is probably similar to the old brass knuckles matches, in which the brass knuckles were placed above the ring, and then you had to go grab them. Usually, though, they'd be up on a pole on the turnbuckle. You had to climb the turnbuckle, and the first person to get the brass knucks could use them. I think that's the same premise here. It's most likely. In a match for the CZW Junior Heavyweight title, the Sensational One defeated Quicksilver to become the new champion. So, anyways, that happened back 25 years ago today. Now, as we move ahead to 2000,
Quicksilver is in wrestling? Wow.
Not the same Quicksilver. You're probably, because I'm guessing you're thinking Quicksilver's
in wrestling. Jesus, wonder any of his opponents.
This Quicksilver is different. I actually met.
No, I'm thinking Quicksilver is in Pedro Rokanov. Wanda's brother. Magneto's son.
Okay. Yeah, I should have realized that, because I was thinking you were talking more about Silverhawks. But that's him right there. That's Quicksilver right there.
But of course,
he was an indie wrestler back in the 90s there. But
and of course, I am joking a little just because I know it's not the same one. But
all right. Well, anyway,
I just figured it would be a neat joke.
Yeah. Anyways, moving ahead to 2009. On this date in 2009, Paramount Pictures released the DreamWorks animation film Monsters vs. Aliens on this date back in 2009, 15 years ago today. The DreamWorks animated film Monsters vs. Aliens was released on this date back in 2009. And 2009 is just so nice.
That was a good film. Me and my mom went to see it. You're going to hit it twice.
Right. I hit it twice. And also on this date in 2009, let's see. A1 Picture, the second season of A1 Pictures, Birdie the Mighty Decode completed its run on Japanese television on this day. In 2009. So 15 years ago today, A1 Pictures' second season of Birdie the Mighty Decode completed its run on Japanese television on this date 15 years ago. And finally, we move ahead to 2013. And on this date 11 years ago today, in 2013, on this date in 2013, the 20th issue of Angel and Faith from Dark Horse Comics, a comic based on, of course, a couple of Buffy the Vampire Slayer characters, Angel and Faith from that show, went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 2013, 11 years ago today. Written by Christos and Gage, with Rebecca Isaacs doing the art. Lettering done by Richard Starkings and Jimmy Betancourt, and Dan Jackson doing the coloring. The story was Spike and Faith. So on this date, sold for $2.99, was 28 pages total. On this date, 11 years ago today, the 20th issue of Angel and Faith went on sale on this date back in 2013. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Before we go, of course, I want to give Rick, did you want to do an outro of any type? Share any links, promote your work.
I'm going to put a link. I was going to put a link to my one thing, but I don't think it's the right links. Yeah, just go check out the link above. Go check out my other channel, and I should be putting up a video within the next hour. Yeah, and be sure to check that out. It should be good. It's, I think, about 5 minutes long. And try to watch it all the way through. Give me that watch time, folks. I need the watch time.
All right. So with that, guys, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night with more Neats News. Of course, we're going to be covering the Indie Comic Showcase from Bleeding Fool. I'm going to try to get Tim Olson on. Maybe this time we'll get him on to commentary on the Indie Comic Showcase.
Hopefully Tim will be.
Yeah. And of course, Rick, you'll be back here Friday. And I'm sorry I hadn't got you the did you still want me to try to get you the that, or were you good?
Don't worry about it. I'm good. I probably won't end up looking at it, so I might as well not put you through all that hassle for me not to look at it.
Especially now with just a couple days to go too. But
yeah.
So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.